Shaman, as well as 144 Judah. So this blog podcast is my very first one on Rumble. So please bear with me because I'm not really sure how to do everything. But today I'm going to start with a real fun one, and it's um, the Old Testament pseudepigrapha. And we're going to talk about Enoch. So Enoch is like super awesome. And it's actually one of my favorite books. And I actually thought I had it in that book, but here it's the beginning of this one. So I go ahead and get started here. We're going to talk about Enoch and the light and the dark of it all. So the reason why I chose this one is because a lot of people do not understand Genesis. And I believe it's Genesis 6. Could be wrong, but I'm going to check it out. It is. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great and in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. And the Lord said, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. So it says, I will destroy man, whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and creeping thing. So I just kind of want to make sure that we understand this, because that's in Genesis. That's a King James version. And I kind of feel like it's super, super important to understand that, because I'm going to now read Enoch. So as you can see, it says the Ethiopic Apocalypse of Enoch. So this book is actually still in the Ethiopian Bible, which actually contains a lot of the stuff. They didn't take anything out. So I'm just going to go ahead and start reading. So the Ethiopic book of Enoch, or Enoch, also known as First Enoch, is the oldest of the three pseudepigrapha attributed to Enoch, the seventh descendant of Adam and Eve, the first man and woman. According to Genesis 5:24, Enoch walked with God. Then he vanished because God took him. So my book says Enoch walked with God, and then he was not because he took him. So you wonder, well, where did he take him? So this is all going to be answered right now. And it's actually kind of exciting because a lot of people will say, well, it wasn't that important, or he would be in the rest of the story. Well, it's extremely important. And if you actually read Enoch, then you're going to know a lot. And now you're going to understand why they actually took it out of the Bible in the first place. So it's actually kind of fun. And I really love this part, and I know you're going to love it too. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. If you have any questions, go, by all means, message me in the chat, and I will try to make sure I'm paying attention to see that somebody's on there. But here we go. So I'm going to the book. So the first book is the Book of the Watchers, and this pseudographica, it's a hard word to say. Anyway, it has, it tells you exactly what each part is, but I'm not going to tell you all that. I'm just going to read from the actual text, okay? Cool. Introductory visions and parables of Enoch. The parable of Enoch, the righteous and the wicked. The blessing of Enoch, with which he blessed the elect and the righteous who would be present on the day of tribulation at the time of the removal of all the ungodly ones. So this is talking about the tribulation period. And a lot of people are like, well, oh, I just blocked out there for a second. I'm back. So I'm just going to go ahead and talk about that. This is a letter at the beginning, and it's talking about the tribulation period. So it's talking about the time after Christ, right when, after the resurrection, and when Christ comes back on the clouds. And people are saying, well, that hasn't happened yet. Well, let's just take a preterist view of it and say it has happened, and it happened during Nero's time, because Nero is the one person that fits the 666 and the 616 in the gematria. And if you don't know what that stuff is, these are terms that we should all be looking up and understanding. And it is actually quite fascinating if you read Revelation with a fresh start, a fresh view of understanding that the tribulation period already happened. And people say, oh no, that couldn't possibly happen because we live with Christ now. No. Because in Revelation 20, it talks about the little season. And that's when, after 1,000 years are up, Satan is loosed again, only for a little season. And we are in that little season right now. And all of this will become painfully clear. And just kind of want to talk about it. So if you have any questions or if you completely disagree with me, I'm up for it. I want to have a discussion. So don't feel like you need to hold back. So I'm going to check because I have some people that are on YouTube and on Rumble, and they're watching right now. They're going to have questions. And I just want to make sure, I want to look at my channel. So if you see me just kind of looking kind of oddly right now, I want you to see if you can see my video. So I'm going to go to my channel. I'm on YouTube. I just want to make sure, and it is there. There I am. Yay. So I want to share this link onto a Facebook post. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that real quick. So I know this is kind of stupid that I'm doing it this way, but I want everybody to be able to hear this information. I particularly want to share it with a group called the Combined Forces, the Mindful Rebels, that I'm in on Facebook. And I want them to be able to see it if they are interested. So let's get started. The righteous and the wicked. The blessings of Enoch, with which he blessed the elect and the righteous who would be present on the day of tribulation, the time of the removal of all the ungodly ones. And Enoch, the blessed and righteous man of the Lord, took up his parable, while his eyes were open, and he saw and said, This is a holy vision from the heavens, which the angels showed me. And I heard from them everything, and I understood. I look not for this generation, but for the distant one that is coming. I speak about the elect ones and concerning them. And I took up with a parable, saying, the God of the universe, the holy great one, will come forth from his dwelling, and from there he will march upon Mount Sinai and appear in his camp, emerging from heaven with a mighty power. And everyone shall be afraid, and watchers shall quiver. So there's a little note at the bottom here. And I just want to read what the note says. So this text was found was found in a cave in Qumran, and it's actually quite interesting because this has been lost forever, and these kids were outside and there was a rock thrown or something, and they hear this crack, and here this cave had all of these lost scriptures in it, and this is one of them. So you say, well, how do you know it's in the Ethiopian Bible? Well, it was there for sure, but our Bibles did not have it. So because they took it out. So we had none of these things. So you wonder why they took it out. It's pretty obvious once we get here. Awesome. I have people. Yes, there are 144,000 variants in the human genome. Yes. I'm so glad you can see it. Absolutely. I totally agree. So we got George Coggins mentioning about the Nag Hammadi library, preserved and discovered by an act of God alone. Absolutely. I mean, it says, at the time of the end, all this stuff's going to be coming. Everything hidden will be, known. And, people will say, oh, it shouldn't have been in there. Then why do we have these scripts in the first place? Because we wouldn't have them. Because if God wanted something out, it would have been taken out, and we wouldn't have these things come up later. I really do believe that. If you look at Revelation and you look at the end, you're looking at what's chapter 20. It's Revelation 21:17. It says, and he measured the wall thereof 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is of the angel. And I get all excited about it because it's talking about you're going from the 666, the 6 protons, the 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, and you're going to, because he measured it now, because he measures at the beginning, about halfway through Revelation, he measures it because he's telling him to go measure, and he takes a reed rod, right? And he goes and measures, right? And then it says he measures that, the kingdom is that, and then he waits until the 144,000 are sealed. So the 144,000 in that time, are the people that went through they were going through their ascension. They started waking up and they were repenting and they were washing their robes in white, right? They're getting their light bodies. You come here and then you hear this at the second part. This is the second half of Revelation. And it starts talking about going from the 666 to the 144, the measure of a man, that is of the angel. Catholic Church is founded on one line in Matthew where Jesus gives Peter authority, but I forget where exactly. In Deuteronomy, it states 2 witnesses must be present to establish it. Yeah, absolutely. In Corinthians, it states 2 witnesses must be present to establish an event, hence 4 gospels, and it's only found in 1, whereas the second witness. Well, I kind of think the whole thing about the second witness is one of the things that I had been getting for quite a while was that, if you take it like this way, that the 2 witnesses are the 144,000. So the 144,000 would be a couple people say, well, okay, they're like these people that come in 2 by 2, right? But it's also it's also quite literally, like say, like the people, or like figuratively, you got your DNA, your structure within your body, the vibration, the the new song that we're singing is the 144, like the hertz, the whole I know what word I'm thinking of, and it's just not coming out. Isn't it terrible? But anyway, it's actually quite, it's frequency. Thank you. It's actually quite interesting because you would think, okay, it's you and God, like Jesus said. So Yeshua says whenever he is talking, he's like, that's my witness, right? So I kind of feel like, okay, there's the other part of the witness. Yeah, exactly. Well, this is a whole Mandela effect, right? So the whole interesting thing about that is the Bible used to say, I know, and some people would say, it would say, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am, right? And so then it says, then there was a whole Mandela thing where it says, where two or three or more were gathered in my name. And it's like, what the heck? Have you seen that? That's actually really interesting, because then you go actually look for it, and the whole the scripture changed. So it's kind of interesting as we, I would say, level up, and as we go through this ascension, we are getting more and more information coming to light. It's like more stuff's coming. As the more you ascend, the more you wake up, the more stuff comes in, the more you seek, the more you will find. 2 witnesses of Christ appeared on a Mount of Olives in Israel about a week ago on some level. Oh, nice. Interesting. I didn't even see anything about that. No, I'm definitely going to have to look that up. So I find this stuff so interesting, but like this particular part of Enoch, it's just like, it blows me away. So we're talking about the time of the end and everything, and it's just absolutely fascinating to me. He says, okay, there's part about Mount Sinai, and great fear and trembling shall seize them unto the ends of the earth. Mountains and high places will fall down and be frightened, and high hills shall be made low, and they shall melt like a honeycomb before the flame, and earth shall be rent asunder, and all that is under the earth upon the earth shall perish, and there shall be a judgment upon all, including the righteous, and to all the righteous he will grant peace. He will preserve the elect, and kindness shall be upon them. They shall all belong to God, and they shall prosper and be blessed, and the light of God shall shine unto them. Behold, he will arrive with 10 million of the holy ones. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah. In order to execute judgment upon all. He will destroy the wicked ones and censure all flesh on account of everything that they have done, that which the sinners and the wicked ones committed against him. My cousin and I, 2 firm witnesses in Christ, took a photo standing on an ancient mountain covered in what are called autumn olive trees, and sent the photo to my friend in Israel. Was compelled to do so. You won't find it anywhere else. This was personal but highly symbolic in nature. Tall mountains melting sounds like the Rockies after Yellowstone goes. Yeah. And I kind of feel like, okay, so there's so many things with that, right? So like, if you think symbolically, because, you could say, okay, is this a literal thing? Because there's so much symbolism, because it's apocalyptic writing. So you could say, okay, is it a symbolism thing, or is it like a literal thing? Yes, could have that if like the super volcano goes off, sure. Or if there was some kind of nuclear event, sure. Or a mountain can be like all of the things that stand in our way that literally just fall and go away. All of our problems, maybe. I don't know. So we go back to Enoch again. Examine all the activities which take place in the sky and how they do not alter their ways, and examine the luminaries of heaven, how each one of them rises and sets. Each one is systematic according to its respective season, and they do not divert from their appointed order. and look at the earth, and turn in your mind concerning the action which is taking place in her, from the beginning to the end, how all the work of God as being manifested does not change. And behold, the summer and winter, how the whole earth is filled with water and clouds and dew, and he causes rain to rest upon her. Examine and observe everything in the trees, how all their leaves appear as if they had fallen, except 14 trees whose leaves do not fall, but the old foliage remains for about 2 to 3 years until the new leaves come. And again examine the days of summer, how the heat of the sun is upon the earth and dominates her. And as for you, you will crave shade and shelter on account of the heat of the sun, and the earth shall burn with scorching heat, and you are not able to walk on the earth or on the rock on account of the heat. Observe how the verdant trees are covered with leaves, and they bear fruit. Pay attention concerning all things, and know in what manner he fashioned them. All of them belong to him who lives forever. His work proceeds and progresses from year to year, and all his work prospers and obeys him, and it does not change, but everything functions in the way in which God has ordered it. Yeah, absolutely. George says, the truth is often an intertwining of symbolic and literal spirit and flesh, energy and matter. Absolutely. It's like absolutely crazy, like all the things, I tell everybody, keep seeking, seek every day, seek the truth, and just keep seeking, and more things will be opened up to you. I've had so much stuff opened up to me because I read a lot and I seek a lot. I'm constantly in prayer and doing work, trying to understand and get a closer connection. And it has been just honestly, it's been absolutely incredible. I feel like $1 million, Okay. I can't remember where I stopped. Okay, it says, and look at the seas, they do not part. They fulfill all their duties. But as for you, you have not been long suffering, and you have not done the commandments of the Lord, but you have transgressed and spoke slanderously, grave and harsh words with your impure mouths against his greatness. Oh, you hard-hearted, may you not find peace. Therefore, you shall curse your days, and the years of your life shall perish and multiply in eternal execration, and there will not be any mercy upon you. In those days you shall make your names in eternal execration unto all the righteous, and the sinners shall curse you continually, you together with the sinners. But to the elect there shall be light, joy, and peace, and they shall inherit the earth. To you, wicked ones, on the contrary, there will be a curse. And then wisdom shall be given to the elect, and they shall all live, and not return again to sin, either by being wicked or through pride. But those who have wisdom shall be humble, and not return again to sin. They shall not be judged all the days of their lives, nor die through plague or wrath, but they shall complete the designated number of the days of their life. Kind of interesting. What an awesome word, like complete the designated, right? So what do you think that means? And peace shall increase their lives, and the years of their happiness shall be multiplied forever in gladness and peace all the days of their life. And so now we're starting to talk about the fall of the angels. So this is a really cool section. Sorry, my son's first day of school was today. He's a senior, and he literally just posted something. He should not be posting anything, but I saw it. Okay, so the fall of the angels. In those days, when the children of man had multiplied, it happened that there were born unto them handsome and beautiful daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw them and desired them. And they said to one another, come, let us choose wives for ourselves from among the daughters of man, and beget us children. And Semyaz, being their leader, said unto them, I fear that perhaps you will not consent that this deed should be done, and I alone will become responsible for this great sin. But they all responded to him, Let us all swear an oath and bind every one among us by a curse, not to abandon this suggestion, but to do the deed. Then they all swore together and bound one another by the curse. And they were altogether 200. And they descended into Ardos, which is the summit of Hermon. So this is extremely important. Okay. This place. And they called the Mount Ormon, for they swore and bound one another by a curse. And their names are as follows. And so I'm going to go through their names. Okay. But so this place, this Mount Hermon. So a lot of people speculate that is where, that's the place where it was the transfiguration of Christ. And they're saying that there was like probably some type of portal right there. Okay. Which would, kind of make sense, I suppose, if you think about that, because if there's a portal there and they're like popping out onto this place and they just come out, I don't know. I don't have to think about that one. It's kind of crazy, but I'm going to listen to it and kind of feel my way through it. Put on that lens. We'll say, okay, it could be, who knows? Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm saying, Mount Hermon has a NATO base on top of it this day, I believe. Oh, well, that wouldn't surprise me. Would it surprise you? NATO base. Of course it does. I would say, yeah, that would make a lot of sense. There's so much stuff wrong with that. But yeah, obviously, it would not surprise me one bit if there was a NATO base there. But also you find this out. So there's 200 of these angels. And they say, hey, I know we're not supposed to do this, but let's do it. Let's get with these chicks and, have kids. They know they're not supposed to do it. So what's Jesus say? Jesus says, and I say Jesus, I know Jesus' name, but a lot of people that listen to these don't. So Yeshua's name. So he says, I am too. I'm really glad too. You know what? I wish all of them would have kept it as canon. What I do find very interesting is Yeshua was talking about the angels, because I think like the Pharisees or somebody asked who this woman's husband was. It was a widow. And he said, okay, who's her husband when she dies? Because she's had like, I don't know, 5 husbands or something. And he said, he says they don't have husbands. When you go to heaven, when you're in heaven, you don't, because the two, it's not there. That's not the thing. They're like angels. And I think this is interesting. So the angels were meant to be this way, right? So they're not meant to, have children. They were meant for higher things. This is a dual world. This is a duality. This is our, when we came here, if you say with Adam and Eve, and then there was a, rib, but also it's everywhere else in the Bible, it's meant to be side. So if you take half of Adam and you have Eve, and so you have the masculine, the feminine, and now duality, they're separated. Jesus talks about, or Yeshua talks about, the two becoming one. Everything's, when you make two one. If you read the Gospel of Thomas, if you do any of this stuff, you'll know that you're always making the two one, and there's a marriage of the bride. There's all these things saying you're making two one, and if you think about like we came in here and there's an illusion of separation. We're not really separated, but the illusion is separation. So we're separate from God. Even our body's the temple. God is within us. We're always connected, but the illusion is separation. And yeah, it's definitely, you say they regress in a sense. Yeah, they totally did. So these angels are like, okay, hey, let's get down here and do this. So my husband has this theory, which, I think it's great, that you have the angels that fell, and that's these guys here that we're talking about. That's what this chapter is, the fall of the angels. He says, what if they were like hermaphroditic type things, right? So basically they're, if the angels, so Enoch says like they're men. Okay. I believe they're all men, right? But they come here on this earth and they're with these women and they have these abominations. They have these crazy, like giant, like demigod type people, right? And so they went from being in this heavenly place, these pure beings, to kind of going into our level. So they went from the 144 to the 666. It just became this animalistic thing. Daniel and Babylon taught me much on that as well. Body is a temple and you are what you consume. That's been a major motivating damage. Yeah, I agree with that, George. And I do agree with that, especially, Daniel was very careful about everything. And there is definitely a lot. I went, when I started my whole human life, yeah. when I started my whole awakening process, like really started waking up a lot to all this, I stopped eating meat. That was like, I would like to say for about a year. I stopped doing like sugar, and I tried all different things. I had so much information coming in all the time, and like I really felt really super connected. I did this fast, and it was just incredible. And reading the different parts of scripture and understanding it, like I went through this huge thing with the the Torah, and just really dove deep into it. And then all the pseudographic books, I put those in, and I went through those and was like, okay, this is what this says, this says, this says. And then I started reading the New Testament, and then the New Testament, Jesus talks about, like they ask about the food, and he says, the food isn't what goes in the mouth comes back out, and it doesn't defile the body. What comes out, what comes from the heart, defiles the man. And it's just like, okay, so under the understanding of the whole new covenant and everything, I'm not saying that the food isn't bad, because obviously we're being poisoned every day by these people. But yeah, I stopped worrying as much and like putting all that stress on myself with every little thing. But I have noticed that the way some foods really affect my body, it makes so much sense. The way it affects me, it affects my way of communication, my way of understanding. It affects, like, me physically by being tired or not as open. It really, really does affect me. Oh yeah, definitely. Especially like processed foods, absolutely nuts. That's one thing that we have like pretty much cut out. The only thing I would say processed foods where we like macaroni and cheese. We could just make our own macaroni and cheese, but we don't. That's our big one. That is the big one for us that we do. We basically are just vegetables and fruits, and we do meat, but we have a farmer person that does the food, and there's nothing added to anything. So that has been different. And wow, what a difference that has made. Yeah, and you know what? I kind of felt like too. The other thing was um, as I was reading Matthew and I was going through, like, I'm doing this Bible study on Thursdays, and so it's with other people that are more like more spiritual based. It's not a religious based thing, and we're doing a discussion on Matthew, and it was all about like the I forget where I was going with this. I'm so sorry. I just kind of like looked at the screen and I lost myself. We're talking about the foods. Oh, the fasting. So yeah, we're talking about the fasting, and so I'm looking at Matthew and I'm reading this part about the fasting, and it talks about these unclean spirits, and it talks about these demons, and oh, they were asking Yeshua, why they couldn't get these demons out, and he said some can only be removed by prayer and fasting, right? And of course it's only the King James version, because the other versions of the Bible, they completely take this part out. They completely take it out. And I started noticing these little things. So like, well, that's a huge thing, right? One of the things that I completely noticed was when I started really getting into Bible, I went out to go get one, and I asked God, I said, I don't know which one to get. I have absolutely no idea. And I hear this one. So I'm like, okay, I get it. I get all these, get the King James version, of course, all the THs and everything, and it freaks people out. But I get so much out of this book. And I got home, and I do have several. It's funny because I have several Bibles. So I have all these other translations of it. And the one day, like, I didn't understand something in the King James version, and usually I do, like, I just get it. I understand everything. And I was starting to read it, and I was like, okay, I had one of these like New World translations. Basically, it kind of feels like the Book of Dummies type of stuff. And please don't let me offend you if that offended you. I'm not trying to. It's just it sort of just takes it breaks it down. And anyway, I went to that chapter and it wasn't there, because I was like, okay, what does he mean by this? Like, maybe I'm not getting it. And it was so funny because my brain went right to that. That was the one thing. And then I was like, what else did they take out? And I started on this huge journey of this, like, okay, what else did they take out? What else are they hiding from people? And it's been like one rabbit hole after another, which has been fantastic for me. I am very detective minded. I am very observant. I notice all kinds of stuff. So it's like one of those things that really stuck out to me. Lyme disease forced me into a corner after 30 years and had to give up modern medicine almost entirely and found many natural ways that were far better. Yeah. Back when the foods are loaded with parasites, which are likely to... Yes. We are like the same person, George. So, yeah, and this is what I was getting at. So when I started thinking about it, it wasn't just fasting like for food, right? You're fasting from everything. Like, you're fasting from your Netflix. You're fasting from your, the world is what he wants. He wants you to come out of the world. He says it so many times in so many different ways. Come out of the world, be in the world, but not of it, right? So like, I started like fasting myself from that, and that's when it made a huge difference. It wasn't like, okay, stop eating chicken, okay. And I did feel better when I stopped eating some of the foods, because there was really like a lot for my body. But I also noticed it was like you said, the preservation of the food. It was the preservatives and everything that were killing me. It wasn't the fact that salt's not bad. It's actually not bad at all. It actually would bind the water to you, right? But it's the kind of salt and what they do to the salt right now. And so it's like absolutely insanity. And so when you start getting into the more natural stuff and you stop going to the doctor and you stop doing all that stupid stuff, because you don't need all these medications. I don't take any medications. I take nothing, like not one thing. My husband and I had this discussion about like what the doctor's good for. The doctor's good for like, fixing a broken arm, or, you got a broken leg, or, if you just got shot, you got to get the bullet out. type of stuff, like serious, like emergency situations. It's not to baby your every pain or ache. There's a reason why the energy is getting stuck in your body and making you sick, you know. And like I said, these parasites are absolutely insanity. I don't think so either. You know, you're talking about the edibles. I don't think so either. It comes out of the ground. It's completely natural. What the problem is the government can't tax it to death and kill us with it. So, you know, it's not okay. But it's okay if you get this card from the government to, you know, go smoke or do whatever. But we got to also add this to it. Now, why does it have to be added? It doesn't. It grew out of the ground. Every single thing that God has put here, He's had a solution to it. If there's a problem, here's the solution. Here's God for you. God knows the end from the beginning, so He knows they're going to do all this crap to us. So guess what? It's growing in the garden. It's to fix you. Absolutely. Quantum entanglement is absolutely fantastic. You know, it has to do everything about the prayer, you know, your prayer life. We're all quantumly entangled. You know, I pray for you, you're getting it. You know, this field around our body, it just keeps going, it keeps going out. And it's just amazing. And I got chills just thinking about it. Like, so the earth, just like our bodies, are a toroidal field. That's it. It's a toroidal field. And people don't get it. Like, it's like, that's what it is. So the energy is like, kind of goes around like the core, like of an apple. And oh, is it flat? No. Is it round? No. It's a torus. Yes, it was. It was Pharmaca. Isn't that crazy? So that's part of Revelation. That's part of Revelation. That's in the book of Revelation. I actually wrote that in there. Pharmakia, which is the Greek word, right? That was a huge thing. I remember when the whole, you know, COVID stuff went out, and I was like, well, there's that. It's right there, Pharmakia, and it's in here. I think that's like when it talks about like different parts about like the marks and everything. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I asked God a long time ago. I mean, it was I don't know, it's been several years now. I can't tell you what year it was. I probably wrote it down in a journal or something. I said, hey, because, you know, I thought some of this flat earth stuff kind of made sense, to be honest with you. I know probably sound like a nut, but obviously I always believed in the round thing, you know, the globe, but because that also made sense. But when I hear some of these discussions, it's like, you know, that does make sense. And then it was like, so I asked, and I got Taurus. And I was like, I didn't even know what it was. I didn't even know what that was. I had to look it up. I've learned, like I said, I've learned so much stuff. You know, the more you seek, the more you find. And I get it. Like, I ask questions all the time. I'm very inquisitive. And, you know, and I find that more people of the light, you know, we're asking these questions, the more you seek, the more you find, and then you attract those people to your, you know, yourself. So you have these discussions, you can have these great discussions. There's people out there that'll have them with you if you put yourself out there. So it's kind of nice. Yeah. You know, it's, to me, it's like, it's absolutely, it's quite amazing, you know, when you think about it, with this dimensional field. So I don't know where you are with this right now. So this is a 5D discussion. This is like, well, 5D news is what I'm talking about. Like, I'm going to be talking about more of this on my channel because I'm finally ready. You know, I'm finally ready to get there. I've wanted to talk, but, you know, I always worry, oh, okay, well, I got to go do this, got to go do that. I'm like, you know what, just do it. Just make the video. Just make the video. But dimensionally wise, you know, we have this, you know, obviously the flat plane is like a two-dimensional plane. Then you got the three-dimensional plane. Then you have the fourth dimensional plane, which the fourth dimensional plane really is Enoch. You know, Enoch talks about it. You find out about these like disembodied spirits, where these spirits go. That's like the fourth dimensional plane. I liken it to the fact that when you're, say, in a room and um, you are sitting here and you see something out of the corner of your eye, and you look and you're like, like something off to the side, right? Fourth dimensional plane. Now, when people first start to wake up, they start to see little things in their peripheral, right? But when you turn and you look, there's nothing there. Or is it? What are you not seeing? So our eyes, our brains also, well, our brains are receivers, right? They're not really like, they don't come up with the information. We're receiving this information. We're like little antennas, right? And, our brains are like, okay, I want that. I'm going to pick up that today. And if you focus on negative, you're going to get more negative items that are going to come into your brain. You're going to receive more negative things in your brain, and you're going to start picking which ones you make your truth, your reality, right? So this is like a whole quantum physics type of situation here. And then if I focus on something negative, such as, like, say I'm gossiping about somebody, then more bad things are going to come. And then I might have somebody call me and they want to gossip about somebody. I might talk to them, and energetically we're pulling people in. This is the quantum field. This is the entanglement. We're like bringing in our reality. That's why you get all these people talking about, oh, I'm going to manifest all this money and all sort of stuff. But you have to be in a good vibration. You have to be in a good, a positive form to be able to even get that in the first place. And you have to stay that way. That's staying in the light. That's, I just find this really, really fascinating. George, I never got to do it. I never did that. I wanted to. I wanted to do ayahuasca because I thought it'd be really interesting, because now I'm finally at the point where I've been working on myself for so long that I feel like, okay, I would be okay with that. Like, it would be totally safe, and I wouldn't go nuts. I was kind of worried, okay, well, maybe I'll have this really bad trip. And I wanted to do that, but literally I'm in Ohio, so there's like nothing. I mean, I don't even know where you'd go for that. I do know somebody that is, I know other people just like us that, do edibles and stuff, like did some mushrooms or, like, I don't know, DMT or whatever. But no, I've never done that. And I thought about it a lot. But I guess that, yeah, where they do like ketamine also, but I've never did that kind of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I do know all about that. That is actually, so I actually have a story about that. Um, so when I was 4 years old, oh yeah, I am definitely steadfast about my faith. When I was 4 years old, my parents stopped going to church because there was this whole thing. They wanted my parents to pay all this money, and they were making this big deal about money and everything. But I liked church a lot. And, I liked Sunday school, and I loved Jesus. I used to sing all kinds of songs. And so I really wanted to go. And so my parents said I could go, but they were not going anymore. They were done. That was it. And they didn't go back. And so that day I went upstairs, and I was going upstairs to this, on top of this, I don't know, steeple place, at the top. And there was a hallway that went straight in. And at the hallway, there was a door. And that was where my Sunday school teacher was. And I walk in, and there's a lady, and like her back's facing me. And she's facing the opposite side, which she never was. And she had a rocking chair. Well, I walk in, and when I walked in, and she turned and looked at me, and it wasn't her. And it was like this clown. And I know this sounds absolutely nuts, but when you said Wendigo, right? So I saw this clown, like it was the creepiest thing I've ever seen in my life. I screamed my head off. And I told everybody, I said that was the scariest moment I've ever had in my entire life. I was never afraid of clowns or anything like that, and didn't have a fear of clowns. And I walked up into this room, and this person was there, and it turned around, and there's this clown. So anyway, I didn't think anything of it. And this past week, I think it was, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday. This is absolutely insanity. My husband was watching this video on YouTube about this guy, and he was talking about what these fallen angels look like. And he said, "Do you know what fallen angels look like?" And the guy said, he goes, "They look like clowns." And this whole top of my head was like, it felt like water was being poured down my head, and I had these chills, and it went all the way down my spine, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is absolutely insanity. And so, I was looking up Hopi, and so Hopewell, and they were talking about this Wendigo, and they were talking about how they look like court jesters, and how are these spirits, and what they would do, and how they would dress up, and and I was like, all right. And I thought, what if that was not my Sunday school teacher at all? So that day was the last day I went to church. So at that church, and then I had gone to another one a while after that, but I was terrified. That scared the crap out of me. DMT is extremely powerful as well. I'm working on that. That's really good to know. Yeah, I might have to check that out. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about this. I'm on Rumble, but maybe other people can't see my live chat. So my live chat, one of my live chats coming from YouTube about the Hopi now it's about the Hopi prophecy. They tie into the greater prophecy of Revelation being the gathering of people. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's actually one of the, about the rainbow warriors and everything. Absolutely. I thought the exact same thing. To me, it's the same exact thing. And I feel like the rainbow has to do with the chakra system, going up, the energy system's going up the spine. And a lot of people don't want to talk about that because, they say, well, that's a new age type thing. I don't believe so. I believe that everybody has a piece of this pie, and it is important for me to keep that in my mind and not think that there's only one answer, because I just know that's not true. Like, in my heart, I know that's not true. But the rainbow, I do believe that's what that is. And I just got chills. So weird. Anyway, I believe that that's the truth of that. And I do feel like that has a lot to do with the whole Noah's Ark thing too, not just in that sense, because everything's symbolic, right? So I feel like, okay, that goes back. It's almost like a full circle from the last restart. And the last restart would have been that, if we go from the tribulation to that. It's actually quite interesting. So we get down here back to the Enoch. we get to the names of the falling angels, and they all end with not all of them. I shouldn't say that. That was very poorly said. A lot of them end with L. Okay, so L means like God, right? It's like a holy thing, and some of them Os. So we have, well, the leader was Semyaz, right? And Arakeb, Ramael, Tam-El, Ram-El, Dan-El, Ezekiel, Barakel, Azel, and now you have Armaros, Batar-El, An-El, Zekael, Sasso Masp, that one's hard to say. L, that also had the L on it. So we keep going through, and it names all of them, right? And then it says, This is Enoch 1:7. It says, and they took wives unto themselves in everyone, respectively. Choose one woman for himself, or chose one woman for himself, and they began to go unto them. That means they were doing it, right? And they taught them magical medicine, incantations, the cutting of roots, and taught them about plants. And the women became pregnant and gave birth to great giants whose heights were 300 cubits. Dude, so you don't understand how huge this is. So I'm going to put something out there, and you might think I'm absolutely batshit crazy, but I'm going to do it. Okay? And one of them is this. 300 cubits, right? Isn't like 1 cubit 16 feet? I believe so. And I'm going to look in my Bible because I believe that's what it is. But I'm going to look just in case I got that wrong. I got a little chart here. Like a map, and there's some charts. Hold on one second, because I don't want to lie to you. That really bothers me. A cubit. So a half a cubit is 9 inches. So 18 inches for a cubit. 300 cubits times 18 inches. Let's do that, because let's get the calculator out. We're like hundreds of feet, 400 feet probably. Close to it, or 400. 18 times 300. Dude, these things are like gigantic. $450 feet. 450 feet. So these things are ginormous. All right. And you'd say, well, how is that possible? Now, let me post something to you that I have heard, and I believe it. You've seen these mountains that look like people, right? What if they're not mountains at all? What if they're people that were petrified once the floods came and they turned into rock? So there's a part in this book, and it talks about how God sent the angels down to cut the trees. And you'll see, like in Arizona, you'll see these big things, and they say, oh, they're rocks or whatever. They're trees. If you look at them, they look like tree stumps. And they have these, like, you know what a tree looks like, obviously. You can see the rings in the middle. So if you go out to like Arizona, you can go out to any of them. Colorado, they have the Valley of the Gods and stuff like that. They're these huge rocks. They say, oh, they're huge rock formations, but the tops of them look like trees. It looks like a tree. So what if these are these trees? Because we see what we have, the sequoias, we have the other forest too, right? What the heck's that called? I've been there. Redwoods. Yeah, these gigantic trees, but these things are humongous. So when he sent these angels down to cut these trees off, and why does he cut the trees off? So they can't climb the trees to escape the flood, the Noah flood, right? So these giants, they fall down, right? They drown. They become these mountains. You go to Hawaii and they have tons of. They have this one. They made a movie about it, Moana or whatever. But these natives will tell you these stories and these legends and stuff. You'll see these rocks. You'll see these things that look like gigantic elephants. It looks like a damn elephant rock, and you're like, wow, that's crazy. You'll see stuff like that, and yeah, I don't know, man. Looks like a giant to me. It looks like people. Had modern humans in the others in a bread, they likely would have produced giant sterile offspring. Yeah, the females would have retained a sliver of the genetic information, though, and pass it on through their next same species children. Modern humans were taller, Neanderthals were muscular, mixed with the two giants. Yeah. So this all this stuff about the giants is like kind of bizarre, right? So like you have different things, and so people tell you, oh, the giants were gone after the flood. No, they weren't. You get some part about it, but in that day they were mighty men. The mighty men. That's why they describe these giants. And so it's not true, because in Genesis, after all this stuff happened, after the flood, Abraham's at this place. So there's a place, this oath of this, like the well of the oath or whatever. I know, oath of the well or well of the oath. And there's giants there. There's a bridge that comes over, and they say it's a giant's bridge. So those giants weren't as big as the other giants. They weren't as big. So you're having two separate type of thing. So if we're talking about these 400 feet giants, these ginormous men, right, that are born, it makes a lot more sense, because they're eating other people. They talk about how they were eating the humans. They were doing all these things. There's all these terrible things. And, you know, obviously, if that's bad enough, then these angels, they taught man how to do things before men were really ready to do them. So, I mean, you think about it, like you're bringing, it would be like, you know, I know it's kind of dramatic, but not quite as bad. But like if you had a kid in high school, you had a high schooler, and I said, my son, just say my son, and I put him to babysit a kindergartner, and he would talk to him about all this horrible stuff that the kindergartner should not know. In that sense, sort of like that, you're telling a child, somebody very new, how to, this is a weapon, how you make weapons. They don't know the consequence of the weapon. You're just handing them these things. They taught them how to do the makeup. It talks about this stuff. It says they taught them medicine, incantations, the cutting of roots, taught them about plants. The women became pregnant and gave birth to great giants whose heights were 300 cubits. These giants consumed the produce of all the people until the people detested feeding them. They ate everything. It makes sense. They're huge. There's not going to be anything left. So the giants turned against the people in order to eat them. That's fantastic. And they began to sin against birds, wild beasts, reptiles, and fish, and their flesh was devoured, the one by the other, and they drank blood. And then the earth brought an accusation against the oppressors. Man. Yes. Yes, it is. It says it's like teaching chimps how to use firearms. Yeah, it is. King Og of Bashan. Yeah, it's, and you hear this stuff, and I'm like, well, everybody knows the famous giant, right? David and Goliath, right? We know this, but then people are like, oh no, they died out in the flood. Come on, people, pay attention. I mean, even now, you got, I know it sounds kind of stupid, but we had Andre the Giant, right? And there's people. I've gone to school with people that are gigantically tall. And there's a gene, right? There's a gene that's carrying on. There's something happening here. But they did have these 15-foot tall men, there was a lot of stuff. What was it? Joshua, right? And so you have all these things that's going on. What was it, like Giggle or something? Isn't that where it was, where those rocks were? And then like they saw the rocks, and then they went into this area, and then they mentioned the mighty men. That is your clue. If you know, that means that. And guess what? In Revelation, it's mentioned again, mighty men. So something's happening here. God gives us many clues. We just don't see it, and, quite frankly, a lot of people just listen to what people tell them instead of reading it for themselves. And if we would all just take the time to read for ourselves, then we would know something else is going on here. And you could have a discussion like we're having this discussion. I don't want people to say, oh, well, that girl said this. I want you to be like, oh, she said this. Now I'm going to go look it up to see if she's, nuts, right? I get the same thing. That's the discernment. Absolutely. We're possibly survivors of the first reset, fireball, earth breeding, primitive man. Yep. And teaching them what they had of prior knowledge, etc. Yes, their cognitive evolution. Yeah. I mean, I kind of feel like, they just sped up a process. They weren't quite ready. Jesus talks about this too in the New Testament. Talk about we don't give babies meat; they have to have milk first, and they're not gonna be able to digest that. It's the Christian thing. Like you're, a lot of people go to church. Okay, it's fine to start somewhere, but your body's the temple. If you don't seek that personal connection, you're always just going to be that pupil. You're never going to go anywhere else. You're going to learn the same thing. Think about it. When you go to church, and I'm not bashing church, I'm not doing that. It's not that. But when you do go to church, you hear the same story over and over again. Oh, I hear about Jesus at Christmas time. Come on, it's not even true. And then, you hear, you'll hear maybe Matthew. You hardly ever hear John. You'll hear the part of the beginning is the Word, and the Word is with God, and the Word was God, right? But nobody really knows what that means, right? At church, they don't really go through it, And then I'll talk about the thing. Okay, let's talk about Exodus. Let's scare the crap out of people and not explain what it means. And then you hear little things like every once in a while, Father Abraham. Of the I think I might have popped out there for a second. I'm extremely interested in all of the resets. And so if you've come on to this podcast just now, then you would know, like, we're talking about Enoch, but we're also talking about all kinds of stuff, kind of going through this, having this conversation. It's great. But the whole purpose is that we have been reset. If you can have like a button and you can just keep pushing it, okay, time to start over. Boop. It's like Groundhog Day, right? And once you get a certain amount of resets, I assume you just keep ascending, and finally learning. But now you kind of look around and you're like, you see some of the same stuff that's happening, and you're like, how do they not see it? I have no idea. I feel like I've been reset so many times, and I'm well aware of how many times it's been reset, that it's like, not all of them, obviously, but it's like, okay, I'm aware at least that there's been a reset. And then you're like, well, is anybody else? And then you get a few people you can talk to, and kind of go from there. Yeah, I'm there too. So what happens? So here's the saying: I do go to church from time to time, but really it's got a bit stale, hearing the same stuff repeated without any passion in your back. So yeah, I feel that. So I actually had a discussion. I was really actually excited. Okay. So I've been reading and reading and reading and reading, and I have a blog. It's at 144judah at blogspot.com. And I go through everything. I've been doing Yasher forever. So I've got this thing. I just kind of comment on it. Basically, I post Yasher and then like I'll have a little commentary. My commentary is probably ridiculous to a lot of people, but it's real. And anyway, as I'm reading, and I'm going through these different books, and I post the content, and then I have sometimes that, I actually have content. Sometimes I just kind of post the thing. At any rate, I one time last year during football season, I think it was like September or something. My son's in marching band, and there was a woman, and her boyfriend was a pastor at a church, and he had his own church. Anyway, I was so excited because she said, that he was this pastor or whatever. I was like, no way. I'm going to ask him a question, because I was so excited I could finally talk to a pastor about it. And I asked about Joel. So in Joel, there is I think it's like Joel 3:6. Okay. I might be wrong on that, but it's, I don't know why I keep thinking 6 is in one of these numbers. So it probably is. Where to go? I do have a point to the story, and I thought that was right around here. You know, when you can't find something and you're just like, I'm sorry, give me a second. I'd be so mad at myself. Ah. Can't find it. I probably shouldn't be doing this during my actual podcast, but I just can't help myself. Anyway, it's all about Archangel Michael and Lucifer fighting over Moses' body. Do you remember that part? Or do you know that part? So, I mean, it's obviously not common for people to probably know that. Okay. So, anyhow, it was this whole thing about that. And I just read it, and it's only like, I think it's 2 pages. Like, there's 2 pages of this book. Anyway, so I was reading it, and it just stuck out to me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, you know, I read it, and I was thinking, okay, they're fighting over his body. So why are they fighting over his body? Because, you know, the Mosaic law, right, is the 10 commandments. You know, you should not kill. So Moses killed, right? So why are they fighting over the body? So the body goes, you know, goes to this place for judgment. It's against the 10 commandments. There's no speak of hell in the Old Testament. There's none. And in the New Testament, it's a pit of darkness, or the Gehenna, which was like a trash dump where they sacrificed to Moloch. Okay. But and then if you look up hell and hellfire means mental anguish or to haunt. So it's not an actual place. The pit of darkness was referred to as Tartarus, which is insanity. Because, you know, you think of Tartaria, and if you don't know what Tartaria is, you definitely should look that one up. So you think, okay, this is hell, you know, yes, Sheol. And so they describe it as this place. So it's not really like, you know, it's odd the way it's described, right? Okay. So you can look it up if you have a Greeks and the Strong Concordance. You could look all this stuff up. I did. I looked up all the words. I spent a long time deep diving Matthew to the point where I about drove myself nuts. So anyway, yeah. So and I did a lot of Hebrew study too, and it's kind of going through all of the, you know, all of the words and the definitions, and wow, lots of stuff there. But anyway, so I was wondering, like, so he's fighting over this body, and is it because of the whole, because he did kill, you know, a soldier or whatever? And I thought, yes, where Jonah went for 3 days. Yes, exactly. So I was thinking, okay, is he saving him from that, or like right now, like is that what he's doing, or he didn't want to touch his body, or I don't know. I don't know what the thing was. I thought it was kind of odd. And you know, I kind of wondered, like, what is this? You know, what are we looking at here? I thought it was really interesting. So I asked this pastor. I said, "Hey, I have a question." He said, "Okay." I said, "I love reading the Bible. Like, it's seriously my favorite thing ever." This is extremely interesting. I've been doing this massive deep dive on this. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so very much. Christ be with you as well, George. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you. You have a great day. God bless you. So anyway, I did this thing. It's a whole deep dive thing. I was talking to this pastor, and I said, "Hey, I have this question about Moses and this, Lucifer thing." And he said to me, he said, "I didn't read that. I don't know what that is. I'm not aware of it." And I'm glad he didn't lie to me and disagree. Yeah, I did. But he didn't understand it. He didn't know. And so I thought that was extremely interesting, because the interesting part is he did not know, and he's a pastor. Now, I know you're thinking, okay, come on. Nobody's perfect. Yeah, nobody's perfect, but you're going to go in front of a congregation. And maybe he's not talking about Joel. Maybe he's not talking about any of this stuff. But there are other things. This is my whole point to this. When I went to school to be a teacher, I went to school to be a music teacher. Okay. So I was a band director. I had to learn all the instruments. I had to learn all the brass instruments, all the, the woodwinds. I had to learn percussion. I had to learn piano. I took piano lessons. I had to do all of it. It was very difficult. And I thought, this is extremely interesting. So you're telling me that you do not have to do this at all? Like, you did not have to read this? He said, no, we could pick what we wanted to learn in seminary school. And then that's what we did. And then we, did a paper on it or whatever. And I thought, what is that? So I thought, how many times have people asked questions to people expecting them to know the answer? They didn't know, and they just thought what they did. Then I thought, people have told me, when I read the Bible, I told them what I thought it meant. And they say, oh, no, that's not what it means. And I say, why doesn't it mean that? Well, because this guy said this, but they never read it themselves. I always thought that was really interesting. So that's a huge thing for me, is discernment, to know, to do research, to look things up, to read, to know. I don't come on to things and tell people that this is 100%, this is this. I'll say, this is what I believe, but, don't listen to me. You should check it out yourself. I'm sitting here reading Enoch. I'll be I've been talking a lot too, but I did the research. I've read the book. I talk about these things, and I know these things. The reason why I do these things is because I would like for other people to know, the people that are scared. Maybe they don't want to do it. Maybe they don't understand it. Maybe I have something I can help contribute. To me, that's the most important. So we're talking about Enoch, and now we're at Enoch 1:8. And Azazel taught the people the art of making swords and knives and shields and breastplates. And he showed to their chosen ones bracelets, decorations, shadows of the eye, shadowing like Aisha, with antimony, ornamentation, the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of precious stones, and all coloring and tinctures and alchemy. Sound like magic. And there were many wicked ones, and they committed adultery and erred, and all their conduct became corrupt. Amasras taught incantation and the cutting of roots, and Amaros the resolving of incantations, and Brachiel astrology, and Coarel the knowledge of the signs. Tamel taught the seeing of the stars, and Azrael taught the course of the moon, as well as the deception of man. And the people cried, and their voice reached unto heaven. So they taught these angels came down, and they taught people things that they were not ready to know, that they were not supposed to tell people. This is their rule. They were not supposed to tell people this. God did not want them telling people this stuff. And they showed them these things. That was stuff for the angels. That wasn't stuff for these people. That was stuff for them. And so it like really corrupted things, you know, and ended up turning people. You know, they couldn't handle it. Then Michael, Seraphel, and Gabriel observed carefully from the sky, and they saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all the oppression being wrought upon the earth. And they said to one another, the earth, from her empty foundation, has brought the cry of their voice unto the gates of heaven. And now, O holy ones of heaven, the souls of people are putting their case before you, pleading, bring our judgment before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the potentates. So I'm going to look up that word because I don't know what it means. And it says kings. Okay, that makes a lot more sense because I wasn't thinking about that. All right. For he is Lord of lords and God of gods, and the King of kings, and the seat of his glory stands throughout all generations of the world. Your name is holy and blessed and glorious throughout the whole world. You have made everything, and with you is the authority for everything. Everything is naked and open before your sight, and you see everything, and there is nothing which can hide itself from you. You see what Azazel has done, how he has taught all forms of oppression upon the earth, and they revealed eternal secrets which are performed in heaven, in which man learned. Secrets that were performed in heaven. Things that should not have been performed here. Moreover, Semyaz, to whom you have given power to rule over his companions. So this is an angel that was in charge, cooperating. They went in unto the daughters of the people on earth and lay together with them, with those women, and defiled themselves and revealed to them every kind of sin. And as for the women, they gave birth to giants to the degree that the whole earth was filled with blood and oppression. And now, behold, the Holy One will cry, and those who have died will bring their suit up to the gate of heaven. Their groaning has ascended into heaven, but they could not get out from before the face of the oppression that is being wrought on earth. And you know everything, even before it came to existence. And you see this thing, but you do not tell us what is proper for us that we may do regarding it. And then spoke the Most High, the great and holy one, and he said, Azariel, to the son of Lamech, saying, so he sent Azariel, so an angel, to the son of Lamech. The son of Lamech. Who is the son of Lamech? It's Noah. Tell him, in my name, hide yourself, and reveal to him the end of what is coming. For the earth and everything will be destroyed, and the deluge is about to come upon all the earth, and all that is in it will be destroyed. And now instruct him in order that he may flee, and the seed will be preserved for all generations. Preserved. His seed will be preserved for all generations. And secondly, the Lord said to Raphael, bind Azazel's hand and foot, and throw him into the darkness. That's Sheol, that's that pit. We talked about this. And he made a hole in the desert, which was in Judea, and cast him there. So there's a hole in the desert. So interestingly enough, they found this statuesque type rock. I'm just going to say that because who knows, a rock in the form of an angel, and it was buried deep within the desert. That was quite creepy. He threw on top of him rugged and sharp rocks, and he covered his face in order that he may not see light, and gave life to the earth, which the angels have corrupted. And he will proclaim life for the earth, that he is giving life to her. And all the children of the people will not perish through all the secrets of the angels, which they taught to their sons. Excuse me. And the whole earth has been corrupted by Azazel's teaching of his own actions, and write upon him all sin. And to Gabriel the Lord said, proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of adultery, and destroy the children of adultery, and expel the children of the watchers from among the people. and send them against one another, so that they may be destroyed in the fight for length of days, have they not? They will beg you everything for their fathers on behalf of themselves, because they hope to live in eternal life. They hope that each one of them will live a period of 500 years. That's interesting, right? And to Michael, God said, make known to Semyaza and the others who are with him, who fornicated with the women, that they will die together with each other. Die together with them in all their defilement. And when they and all their children have battled with each other, and when they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them for 70 generations underneath the rocks of the ground until the day of their judgment and of their consummation, until the eternal judgment is concluded. There's the 70. So 70 generations, they're bound. These are those that defiled themselves with the women. They had sex with these human women and had these giants, Nephilim. You know, they did this to these people. And so when they did this, God says, okay, these angels are coming down. They're going to duke it out now with each other and watch them kill each other. It's really actually quite sick. In those days, they will lead them into the bottom of the fire and in torment in the prison, where they will be locked up forever. And at the time when they will burn and die, those who collaborated with them will be bound together with them from henceforth unto the end of all generations. Unto the end of all generations. So they're still there now, because we're not the end of all generations. And destroy all the souls of the pleasure and the children of the watchers, for they have done injustice to man. Destroy injustice from the face of the earth, and every iniquitous deed will end. And the plant of righteousness and truth will appear forever, and he will plant joy. And then all the righteous ones will escape and become the living ones, until they multiply and become tens of hundreds, and all the days of their youth and the years of their retirement they will complete in peace. And in those days the whole earth will be worked in righteousness, and all of her planted with trees, and will find blessing. And they shall plant pleasant trees upon her vines, and he who plants a vine upon her will produce wine for plenitude. And every seed that is sown on her, one measure will yield 1,000 measures, and one measure of olives will yield 10 measures of presses of oil. And you cleanse the earth from all injustice, and from all defilement, and from all oppression, and from all sin, and from all iniquity, which is being done on earth. Remove them from the earth, and all the children of the people will become righteous, and all nations shall worship and bless me, and they will all prostrate themselves to me. And the earth shall be cleansed from all pollution, and from all sin, and from all plague, and from all suffering. And it shall not happen again that I shall send these upon the earth from generation to generation and forever. So once all this stuff is done, it's basically, it's complete. This is gone. So this is the vision that Enoch has. Before these things happened, Enoch was hidden, and no one of the children of the place knew, before these things happened, Enoch was hidden, and no one of the children of the people knew by what he was hidden and where he was. And his dwelling place, as well as his activities, were with the watchers and the holy ones, and so were his days. And I, Enoch, began to bless the Lord of the mighty ones, and the King of the universe. At that moment, the watchers were calling me, and they said to me, Enoch, scribe of righteousness, go and make known to the watchers of heaven who have abandoned the high heaven. Abandoned the high heaven. Can you imagine? You're like, I'm going to go down there. Are you kidding me? The holy eternal place, and defiled themselves with women, as their deeds moved the children of the world. and have taken unto themselves wives. They have defiled themselves with great defilement upon the earth. Neither will there be peace unto them, nor the forgiveness of sin. For their children delight in seeing the murder of their beloved ones. But they shall groan and beg forever over the destruction of their children, and there shall not be peace unto them, even forever. As for Enoch, he proceeded and said to Azazel, There will not be peace unto you. A grave judgment has come upon you. They will put you in bonds, and you will not have an opportunity for rest and supplication, because you have taught injustice, and because you have shown to the people deeds of shame, injustice, and sin. Then I went and spoke to all of them together, and they were all frightened, and fear and trembling seized them. And they begged me to write for them a memorial prayer, in order that there may be for them a prayer of forgiveness, and so that I may raise their memorial prayer unto the Lord of heaven. For as for themselves, from henceforth they will not be able to speak, nor will they raise their eyes unto heaven as a result of their sins, which have been condemned. So they can't even talk to God anymore. It kind of, it does remind me of the whole Adam and Eve scenario, right? Because if you read the books of Adam and Eve, which you should, if you haven't read them yet, definitely get those. It's interesting when they get thrown out of the garden, they have the connection's gone. And that's what made them so sad. I mean, they were so incredibly sad. They knew right away. They lost that. I imagine it too, like what Daniel talks about. He says the abomination of desolation is when the daily sacrifice was taken away. So the daily sacrifice, each day, that's Christ's crucifixion, our safety net from sin, right? What happened when that's taken away? You no longer have that comfort. You no longer have that. So if you are still sinning and you didn't repent, you didn't turn away from sin, you no longer have that chance. Whew, that's taken away. Your safety net is done. I imagine that connection that we have with our Father would be completely gone, and you'd hear nothing. It'd be crickets. You'd feel nothing. That would be super sad. And then I wrote down their memorial prayers and the petitions on behalf of their spirits and the deeds of each one of them, on account of the fact that they have prayed in order that there may be for them forgiveness of sin and a length of days. And I went and sat down upon the waters of Dan. So forgiveness of sin and a length of days. So he's saying basically, before he said they're never going to have rest ever. So he's like, let's make an end to that. Maybe, they sinned, sure, but let's it'll end in 30 years or 70 generations or something, but nope, never. And I went and sat down upon the waters of Dan, in Dan, which is on the southwest of Hermon. And I read their memorial prayers until I fell asleep. And behold, a dream came to me, and visions fell upon me. And I saw a vision of plagues, so that I may speak to the children of heaven and reprimand them. Oh. And upon my awakening, I came unto them, while they were all conferring together in Lysaio. Sorry, this is extremely hard to say. Which is located between Lebanon and Sansar, while weeping and with their faces covered. And I recounted them all the visions that I had in sleep, and began to speak those words of righteousness and to reprimand the watchers of heaven. That I find interesting. So a lot of people say, that's not, because I've told them, I've had visions and stuff, and a lot of them have happened in my sleep, and I've always found that extremely interesting that it's happened that way. And there's a huge difference between, you having a pizza dream or something and an actual vision. I mean, if you've had one, you'd know. If you haven't had one, just wait for that one. Enoch 1:14. This is the book of the words of righteousness and chastisement of the eternal watchers, in accordance with how the Holy and Great One had commanded in his vision. I saw in my sleep what I now speak with my tongue of flesh, and the breath of the mouth which the Great One has given to man, so that he, man, may speak with it, and so that he may have understanding with his heart, as he, the Great One, has created and given it to man. Accordingly, he has created me and given me the word of understanding, so that I may reprimand the watchers, the children of heaven. I wrote down your prayers, so it appeared in vision. For your prayers will not be heard throughout all the days of eternity, and judgment is passed upon you. Whoa. That sucks, right? Well, you won't even hear them. And imagine, you create these beings, they're your children. You created them from you, right? From the light. God is light. And this is horrible, right? From now on, you will not be able to ascend into heaven until all eternity, but you shall remain inside the earth. Inside the earth, pay attention to that. In prison all the days of eternity. Before that, you will have seen the destruction of your beloved sons, and you will not have their treasures, which will fall from your eyes by the sword. And your petitions on their behalf will not be heard, neither will those on your own behalf, which you offer, weeping and praying, and you will not speak even a word contained in the book which I wrote. Wow. Enoch's vision. And behold, I saw the clouds, and they were calling me in a vision, and the fogs were calling me, and the course of the stars and the lightnings were rushing me and causing me to desire. And in the vision, the winds were causing me to fly and rushing me high up into heaven. And I kept coming into heaven until I approached a wall, which was built of white marble and surrounded by tongues of fire. And it began to frighten me. And I came into the tongues of fire and drew near to the great house, which was built of white marble. And the inner walls were like mosaics of white marble, the floor of crystal, a ceiling like the path of stars, and lightnings between which stood fiery cherubim, and their heaven of water, and flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its gates were burning with fire. And I entered into the house, which was hot like fire and cold like ice, and there was nothing inside it. So fear covered me, and trembling seized me, and I shook and trembled. I fell upon my face and saw a vision. And behold, there was an opening before me, a second house, which is greater than the former, and everything was built with fire, tongues of fire. And in every respect it excelled in the other in glory and great honor, to the extent that it is impossible for me to recount to you concerning its glory of greatness. As its floor, it was fire, and above it was lightning, and the path of stars. And as for its ceiling, it was a flaming fire. And I observed and saw inside it a lofty throne. Its appearance was like crystal, its wheels like the shining sun. And I heard the voice of the cherubim, and beneath the throne were issuing streams of flaming fire. This obviously sounds like Ezekiel 38. I think like talking about these vehicles, but it's like a light body. But it also kind of reminds me of like, the shapes, like the universe, and the sacred geometry. So like if you have a circle, and like in the circle would be a cube, and the cube would be like a pyramid. And they're all sort of moving at one time. It ends up being like a Merkaba. It's like a light body. It's like your light ship. That's how the angels would travel, through like a portal type system. And so you'd have the fires and everything. If you don't know what any of that stuff is, you should definitely look up sacred geometry, Mandelbrot sets and stuff. As you focus and you go in, there's more pictures and stuff that inside the picture. And a lot of it's like, and in my house, in my father's house, there are many mansions. Okay. This is kind of one of the things that happen here. And the whole part about the gates are these openings. And your body has many gates. So we have like the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the nose, other parts. I would think like the chakra systems, stuff like that. The flaming fire was round about him. None of the angels was more brightly than the sun. It was whiter than any snow. None of the angels was able to come in and see the face of the excellent and glorious one. And no one of the flesh can see him. So they can't see him. So you can't see this if you're of the flesh. The flaming fire was round about him, and a great fire stood before him. No one could come near unto him from among those that surrounded the tens of millions that stood before him. He needed no counsel, but the most holy ones who are near to him neither go far away at night nor move away from him. Until then I was prostrate on my face, covered and trembling. And the Lord called me with his own mouth and said to me, come near to me, Enoch, and to my holy word. Interesting, right? And he lifted me up and brought me near to the gate, but I continued to look down with my face. His holy word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Yeshua calls, or John calls Yeshua the Word, right? But he raised me up and said to me with his voice, Enoch. I then heard, do not fear, Enoch, righteous man, scribe of righteousness. Come near to me and hear my voice, and tell the watchers of heaven on whose behalf you have been sent to intercede. It is meet for you that you intercede on behalf of man, and not man on your behalf. For what reason have you abandoned the high, holy, and eternal heaven, and slept with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of the people, taking wives, acting like children of the earth, and begetting giant sons? Surely you used to be holy, spiritual, the living ones, possessing eternal life. But now you have defiled yourselves with women, and with the blood of the flesh of begotten children. You have lusted with the blood of the people, like them, producing blood and flesh, which die and perish. And on that account I have given you wives, in order that seeds might be sown upon them, and children born by them, so that deeds that are done upon the earth will not be withheld from you. Indeed, you formerly were spiritual, having eternal life, and immortal in all the generations of the world. That is why formerly I did not make wives for you. For the dwelling of the spiritual beings of heaven is heaven. Which goes back to Yeshua talking to the Pharisees about the women and men not being married in heaven. Okay? You're not married in heaven. If that's a thing that's here, that's a thing that's here. That's what we do here. So that's what he's saying. He said, well, they messed up, and they went and they messed with these women on earth, and they wanted to be human, right? Because that's what humans do. That's what people in this three-dimensional planet does. They go forth and they multiply. So God says, okay, you want to be human? Okay, you're human now, right? Like, I'm going to let you do what humans do. And now you defiled yourself, and you created these atrocities, and now you're going to have to kill each other, and now you're going to be destroyed. And now guess what else? Now you don't get to go back to heaven. Now, since you've decided to become human, now you are immortal. You're going to die. And you don't get to come back here. And you don't get to have counsel, because you sent a human to intercede with God instead of the other way around. And now it's like, so the angels, the name for like angel, like the messenger, angels wasn't like a wingy thing. It was a messenger. It was like a Malik, I think that's what, Malek. And now, I hope I'm right on that, because there's another word that's very close, and I don't want to get that one wrong. because it's not good. But yeah, Malkeem or something. So now he's like, okay, so you want to be human? Well, you're human now. You just killed yourself. Messenger, Malak. Okay, Malak. Yes. Yay. Okay. Not just an angel, but the angel of the Lord, right? Okay. Well, that sucks, right? But now you've defiled yourselves with women and with the blood of the flesh of begotten children, and you have lusted with the blood of the people, like them, producing blood and flesh, which die and perish. And on that account I have given you wives in order that seeds might be sown upon them and children born by them, so that the deeds that are done upon the earth will not be withheld from you. Indeed, you formerly were spiritual, having eternal life and immortal in all the generations of the world. That is why formerly I did not make wives for you. So he didn't make wives because they're eternal. For the dwelling of the spiritual beings of heaven is heaven. But now the giants who are born from the union of the spirits and the flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth. Listen, folks. Listen. Now they're being called evil spirits, because their dwelling shall be upon the earth and inside the earth. Evil spirits have come out of their bodies. Because from that day that they were created from the holy ones, they became the watchers. Their first origin is the spiritual foundation. They will become evil upon the earth and shall be called evil spirits. The dwelling of the spiritual beings of heaven is heaven, but the dwelling of the spirits of the earth, which are born upon the earth, is in the earth. The spirits of the giants suppress each other. They will corrupt, fall, be excited, and fall upon the earth and cause sorrow. They eat no food, nor become thirsty, nor find obstacles. And these spirits shall rise up against the children of the people and against the women, because they have proceeded forth from them. From the days of the slaughter and destruction and the death of the giants and the spiritual beings of the spirit and the flesh, from which they have proceeded forth, which will corrupt without incurring judgment, they will corrupt until the day of the great conclusion, until the great age is consummated, until everything is concluded upon the watchers and the wicked ones. So you got these evil spirits floating around, torturing people. And so, to the watchers on whose behalf you have been sent to intercede, you were formerly in heaven. Say to them, you were once in heaven, but not all the mysteries of heaven are open to you. And you only know the rejected mysteries. Those ones you have broadcast to the women in the hardness of your hearts. And by those mysteries, the women and men multiply evil deeds upon the earth. Tell them, therefore, you will have no peace. The rejected mysteries. You don't know all of them. Enoch 1:17. And they lifted me up into the place where there were the ones like the flaming fire, and when they so desire, they appear like men, so they can change their form. Shapeshifters. And they took me into a place of a whirlwind in the mountain. The top of its summit was reaching into heaven. And I saw chambers of light and thunder in the ultimate end of the depth toward the place where the bow, the arrow, and the quiver, and fiery sword, and all the lightnings were. And they lifted me up into the waters of life, unto the occidental fire, which receives everything, setting of the sun. And I came to the river of fire, which flows like water and empties itself into the great sea in the direction of the west. And I saw all the great rivers, and reached the great darkness, and went into the place where all flesh must walk cautiously. And I saw the mountains of the dark storms of the rainy season, and from where the waters of all the seas flow. And I saw the mouths of all the rivers of the earth in the mouth of the sea. Excuse me. And I saw the storerooms excuse me, of all the winds, and saw how with them He has embroidered all creation, as well as the foundations of the earth. I saw the cornerstone of the earth. I saw the four winds which bear the earth, as well as the firmament of heaven. I saw how the winds ride the heights of heaven and stand between heaven and earth. These are the very pillars of heaven. I saw the winds which turn the heaven and cause the star to set, the sun as well as all the stars. I saw the souls carried by the clouds. I saw the path of the angels and the ultimate end of the earth, and the firmament of the heaven above, and I kept moving in the direction of the west, and it was flaming day and night toward the 7 mountains of precious east. They were of colored stones, one of pearl stone and one of healing stone, and as for those toward the south, they were of red stone. The ones in the middle were pressing into heaven like the throne of God, which is of an alabaster, and whose summit is of sapphire. And I saw a flaming fire, and I saw what was inside the mountains, a place beyond the great earth, where the heavens come together. And I saw a deep pit with heavenly fire on its pillars. I saw them inside descending pillars of fire that were immeasurable in respect to both altitude and depth. And on top of the pit I saw a place where the heavenly firmament above it, or on earthly foundation under it, or water. There was nothing on it, not even birds, but it was like a desolate and terrible place. And I saw there the 7 stars, which were like great burning mountains. Now, I want you to think about this. There's 7 stars, like great burning mountains. I want you to think about the book of Revelation now. Then the angel said to me, "This place is the ultimate end of heaven and earth. It is the prison house for the stars and the powers of heaven. And the stars which roll over upon the fire, they are the ones which have transgressed the commandments of God from the beginning of their rising, because they did not arrive punctually. And he was wroth with them and bound them until the time of the completion of their sin in the year of mystery." The year of mystery. And Uriel said to me, "Here shall stand in many different appearances the spirits of the angels which have united themselves with women. They have defiled the people and will lead them into error, so that they will offer sacrifices to the demons as unto gods, until the great day of judgment, in which they shall be judged till they are finished. And their women, whom the angels have led astray, will be peaceful ones." So I, Enoch, I saw the vision of the end of everything alone, and none among human beings will see as I have seen. So that's interesting too, because you have people saying all over the place that they've seen these different places, and here we have Enoch saying, nope, they're not going to see what I have seen. And these are the names of the holy angels who watch. Seruel, one of the holy angels, for he is of eternity and of trembling. Raphael, one of the holy angels, for he is of the spirits of man. Raguel, one of the holy angels, who takes vengeance for the world and for the luminaries. Michael, one of the holy angels, for he is obedient in the benevolence over the people and the nations. Sorakael, one of the holy angels, who are set over the spirits of mankind, who sin in the spirit. Gabriel, one of the holy angels, who oversees the Garden of Eden and the serpents and the cherubim. So a lot of people say, well, they don't say what the names of the archangels are in the Bible. Well, they do. I mean, they don't mention anybody else as an archangel except for Gabriel, or not Gabriel, Michael. But then, you have Gabriel that's there as well. He's a messenger that comes in. Enoch's second journey, preliminary and final place of punishment of fallen stars. And I came to an empty place, and I saw there neither heaven above nor an earth below, but a chaotic and terrible place. And there I saw 7 stars of the heaven bound together, for in it, like great mountains and burning with fire. Okay, we read that part. No, we didn't. Okay. And I came to an empty place, and I saw neither heaven above nor an earth below, but a chaotic and terrible place. And there I saw 7 stars of heaven bound together in it, like great mountains and burning with fire. And at that moment I said, for which sin are they bound, and for what reason were they cast in here? Then one of the holy angels, Uriel, who was with me, guiding me, spoke to me and said to me, Enoch, for what reason are you asking, and for what reason do you question, you exhibit eagerness? I want to know why he wants to know what and what they did to deserve to be put in this place. These are among the stars of heaven, which have transgressed the commandments of the Lord and are bound in this place until the completion of 10 million years, according to the number of their sins. Holy cow, 10 million years. I then proceeded from that area to another place, which is even more terrible, and saw a terrible thing, a great fire that was burning and flaming. The place had a cleavage that extended to the last sea, pouring out great pillars of fire. Neither its extent nor its magnitude could I see, nor was I able to estimate. At that moment, what a terrible opening is this place, and a pain to look at. Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, responded and said to me, Enoch, why are you afraid like this? I answered and said, I am frightened because of this terrible place and the spectacle of this painful thing. And he said unto me, this place is the prison house of the angels. They are detained here forever. A prison place for the angels. Then I went to another place, and he showed me on the west side a great and high mountain of hard rock, and inside it 4 beautiful corners. It had in it a deep, wide, and smooth thing which was rolling over. In it the place was deep and hard and dark to look at. And at that moment Raphael, one of the holy angels who was with me, responded to me, and he said to me, these beautiful corners are here in order that the spirits of the souls of the dead should assemble into them. They are created so that the souls of the children of the people should gather here. They prepared these places in order to put them, the souls of the people, there until the day of their judgment and the appointed time of the great judgment upon them. I saw the spirits of the children of the people who were dead, and their voices were reaching unto the heaven until this very moment. I asked Raphael, the angel who was with me, and said to him, the spirit, the voice of which is reaching into heaven like this and is making suit, whose spirit is it? Wait for this one, folks. And he answered me, saying, this is the spirit which had left Abel, whom Cain his brother had killed. It continues to sue him until all of Cain's seed is exterminated from the face of the earth, and his seed has disintegrated from among the seed of people. What do you think about that? So the seed of Cain is still there. And so Abel's spirit is calling out. For what reason is at that well, let's see. Let me go back. Let me read this again. This spirit, the voice of which is reaching into heaven like this and is making suit, whose spirit is this? And he answered me, saying, this is the spirit which had left Abel, whom Cain his brother had killed. It continues to sue to him, S-U-E, until all of Cain's seed is exterminated from the face of the earth, and his seed has disintegrated from among the seed of the people. At that moment I raised a question regarding him and regarding the judgment of all. For what reason is one separated from the other? And he replied and said to me, these 3 have been made in order that the spirits of the dead might be separated, and in the manner in which the souls of the righteous are separated, by this spring of water with light upon it. In like manner the sinners are set apart when they die and are buried in the earth, and judgment has not been executed upon them in their lifetime. Upon this great pain until the great day of judgment, and to those who curse there will be a plague and pain forever. And the retribution of their spirits, they will bind them there forever, even if from the beginning of the world. And in this manner is a separation made for the souls of those who make the suit, and those who disclose concerning destruction, as they were killed in the days of the sinners. Such has been made for the souls of the people who are not righteous. But sinners and perfect criminals, they shall be together with other criminals who are like them, whose souls will not be killed on the day of judgment, but will not rise from there. At that moment I blessed the Lord of glory, and I said, Blessed be my Lord, the Lord of righteousness, who rules forever. Oof. So when we die, according to Enoch, our souls are separated with like souls. You guys getting the same thing that I'm getting here, right? It's kind of mind-blowing, right? I guess it makes sense. You just kind of, it'd be like going to heaven or going to hell type situational whatever this is. But I guess, like Cain or Abel was murdered, so his soul went over here. So I guess until all of the seed of Cain is disposed of, he's going to be crying out for that judgment. Whew, man, that's insane. Could you imagine being there? No thanks. All right. And from there I departed and went to another place in the direction of the west until the extreme ends of the earth. And I saw a burning fire which was running without rest, and it did not diminish its speed day and night, or night and day. And I asked, saying, What is this thing which has no rest? And at that moment Raguel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me and said to me, This thing which you saw is the course of the fire, and this, the fire which is burning in the direction of the west, is the luminaries of heaven. From there I went to another place of the earth, and he showed me a mountain of fire which was flaming day and night. And I went in its direction and saw 7 dignified mountains, all different from one another, of precious and beautiful stones, and all dignified and glorious in respect to their visualization, and beautiful in the respect to their facade. 3 in the direction of the east, 1 founded on the other, and 3 in the direction of the north, 1 upon the other, with deep and crooked ravines, each one of which is removed from the other. The 7 mountains were situated in the midst of these ravines, and in respect to their heights, all resembled the seat of a throne, which is surrounded by fragrant trees. And among them there was one tree such as I have never at all smelled. There was not a single one among those or other trees which is like it. Among all the fragrances, nothing could be so fragrant. Its leaves, its flowers, and its wood would never wither forever. Its fruit is beautiful and resembles the clustered fruits of a palm tree. And at that moment I said, This is a beautiful tree, beautiful to view, with leaves so handsome and blossoms so magnificent in appearance. Then Michael, one of the holy angels and holy and revered angels, he is their chief who was with me, responded to me. And he said unto me, Enoch, what is it that you are asking me concerning the fragrance of this tree, and you are so inquisitive about? And at that moment I answered, saying, I am desirous of knowing everything, but specifically, or specially, about this thing. He answered, saying, This tall mountain which you saw, whose summit resembles the throne of God, is indeed his throne, on which the holy and great Lord of glory, the eternal King, will sit when he descends to visit the earth with goodness. And as for this fragrant tree, not a single human being has the authority to touch it until the great judgment, when he shall take vengeance on all and conclude everything forever. This is for the righteous and the pious, and the elect will be presented with its fruit for life. He will plant it in the direction of the northeast, upon the holy place, in the direction of the house of the Lord, the eternal King. So if you look up northeast, it says, it's beautiful. I don't know, they take out words for these books, which I never quite understand why they do that. Like, really, what's the point of that? Hello, get to freedom. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was actually hoping that you were listening, because I was going to message you and tell you that I was doing this, because I thought this was like super interesting at this part here. So Get to Freedom is on, and he's messaging me. He says, sounds like some of the rest of the dead that are set aside until the time of judgment. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. This is actually crazy. And now we're talking about this tree, which, obviously is the tree of life, right? It's quite obvious where the garden is. But I also find this interesting, Earl, because I want to remember this later for Earl to talk to him about, is he's talking about where it's located. He's talking about it's located in the northeast. I don't know if you got that part. So I think that's really interesting. So, just trying to think of all this stuff. So we're doing this huge discussion on Revelation and about it being the little season and how this is, the tribulation period is over and how that happened during Nero's time. And then we had the 1,000 years of peace. And that was what they would call the Dark Ages. What the people would say it's the Dark Age. It was actually like the Age of Enlightenment. And this is more like the Dark Ages now, the stuff that's going on now. Not very good stuff. Where there was beautiful artwork and these gorgeous cathedrals were being built, and the changing of the name, like of Tartarus to Tartaria, and all these beautiful like star forts and everything. So if you get a chance, you should check out some of that. But we were talking about the holy place being brought down the mountain. But we get back here. He will plant it in the direction of the northeast upon the holy place in the direction of the house of the Lord, the eternal King. So this is like Mount Zion type stuff that's happening, right? Then they shall be glad and rejoice in gladness, and they shall enter into the holy place. Its fragrance shall penetrate their bones. Long life will they live on earth, such as your fathers lived in their days. And at that moment I blessed the God of glory, the eternal King, for he had prepared such things for the righteous people as he had created them and given it to them. So, interesting thought, folks. So, this is a really cool part, right? He's talking about this tree of life and about having more, like living longer, right? Just like the forefathers, right? So, we're talking about like, Noah, 969 days, Methuselah type stuff. Long lives, right? So what does it say in Genesis 6? Genesis 6 comes down to, now they only live 120 years, okay? So you're going from this part to this part. Why is that? Because our DNA was capped. We cannot live past a certain amount of years. It's capped. But if you're going from a, 2-strand DNA, the thing, to 144, and that's what we were talking about at the beginning of this discussion. We talked about going from 666, the 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, to the new measure of a man, the 144, the 144,000, the DNA, the frequency of the body, the number of that of an angel. That is in Revelation, 20, was it 21 that we said earlier? You can check it out yourself. So we're going to that when we're bringing heaven to earth. Now we are going to live like angels, right? That's to become one. That's the marriage of the Lamb. At that moment, I bless the God of glory, the eternal King, for he has prepared such things for the righteous people as he had created them and given it to them. Also, the interesting part is that this part's talking about the smell of this tree and how fragrant it is. And, Enoch's talking about how great it smells and, whatever. And nobody can eat this fruit until the very end, right? Because that's only for the good people, right? And so it's interesting, obviously it's the tree of life. It's obvious that, here we have the Garden of Eden type situation, right? And that's why the garden was so fragrant. It was so beautiful. It's so wonderful. And then you get the story about in Jubilees and also in Yasher about the clothes that Adam and Eve were given from God, and they smelled amazing. And they talk about this in those books. And if you don't know those two books, you need to get those two books. Also, the book of Adam and Eve, fantastic book. You can get those. There's two books like this. So this is one. They're pretty thick books. I can't remember. I think I paid like $30 for two of them. Okay, so you get this one and this one. That's what I'm reading out of right now. You can buy them separately, and you can download a lot of them for free if you want, because there's plenty of places that do like the PDFs of these books, and they are free. But it is a lot easier whenever you, especially you want to make notes or whatever, and you have this physical copy. But the stories are incredible, and all of these stories in these books were found in Qumran. That's what was found in those caves. Okay. So we go to Enoch 1:26. And from there I went into the center of the earth and saw a blessed place, center of the earth. Okay. And I saw a blessed place shaded with branches which live and bloom from a tree that was cut. And there I saw a holy mountain. Underneath the mountain, in the direction of the east, there was a stream, which was flowing in the direction of the north. And I saw in a second direction another mountain, which was higher than the former. And between them there was a deep and narrow valley. In the direction of the latter mountain ran a stream. And in the direction of the west from this one there was yet another mountain, smaller than it and not so high, and with a valley under it. And between them besides another valley which is deep and dry. The valleys were narrow, formed of hard rocks, and no tree growing on them. And I marveled at the mountains, and I marveled at the valleys. I marveled very deeply. At that moment I said, for what purpose does this blessed land, entirely filled with trees, have in its midst this accursed valley? So this place is accursed. Then Uriel, one of the holy angels who was with me, answered me and said to me, this accursed valley is for those accursed forever. Here will gather together all those accursed ones, those who speak with their mouth unbecoming words against the Lord, and utter hard words concerning his glory. Here shall they be gathered together, and here shall be their judgment in the last days. There will be upon them the spectacle of the righteous judgment in the presence of the righteous forever. The merciful will bless the Lord of glory, the eternal King, all the day. In the days of the judgment of the accursed, the merciful shall bless him for the mercy which he had bestowed upon them. At that moment I blessed the Lord of glory and gave him the praise that befits his glory. I'd be praising him too. I want to go to that place. And from there I went in the direction to the east and into the center of the mountains of the desert. And I saw a wilderness, and it was solitary, full of trees and seeds. And there was a stream on top of it, and it gushed forth from above it. It appeared like a waterfall, which cascaded greatly, as if toward the direction of the west of the northeast water, and dew ascended from it all over. Then I went into another place in the desert, and I approached the easterly direction of this mountain. And there I saw the tree of judgment, which has the smell of rubbish. Its tree looked like that of frankincense and myrrh. Well, that's interesting. Let's read that again. Then I went into another place in the desert, and I approached the easterly direction of this mountain. And there I saw the tree of judgment, which has the smell of rubbish. Its tree looked like that of frankincense and myrrh. And so there's like a little footnote at the bottom here, and it says, this rendition of this Ethiopic text follows closely. It may be wrong. The text is awkward. It says, they saw aromatic trees exhaling the fragrance of frankincense and myrrh. The trees were also similar to the almond tree. Okay? And beyond it, beyond those above the easterly mountain, it's not far, and I saw a place which is a valley of water that is endless, and I saw a beautiful tree which resembles a tree whose fragrance is like that of a mastic. And in the direction of the sides of those valleys, I saw a fragrant cinnamon tree, and over these I proceeded in the easterly direction. And I saw other mountains with trees in them. There flowed from them, the trees, something like nectar, like sarara, which is... Sorry, I'm looking for sarara. I don't know, just like an odor, I guess. And galbanum. And over these mountains I saw yet another mountain, and in there were aloe trees, and the whole forest was full of trees, like sturdy almond trees. And when one picks the fruit, it gives the most pleasant odor. And after that, experiencing this fragrant odor, which looking toward the northeast over the mountains, I saw 7 mountains full of excellent nard, fragrant trees, cinnamon trees, and pepper. And from there I went over the summits of the mountains far toward the east of the earth. I then passed over the Erythian Sea and went far from it, and passed over the head of angel Zutuel, and I came to the garden of the righteousness, and saw beyond those trees many other large ones growing there, their fragrance sweet, large ones, with much elegance and wisdom. And the tree of wisdom, of which one eats and knows great wisdom, was among them. It looked like the colors of the carob tree, its fruit like a very beautiful grape cluster, and its fragrance of tree travels and reaches far. And I said, this tree is beautiful, and its appearance is beautiful and pleasant. Then the holy angel, Raphael, who was with me, responded to me and said, this very thing is the tree of wisdom from which your old father and aged mother, they who are your precursors, ate and came to know wisdom. And consequently, their eyes were opened, and they realized that they were naked. And so they were expelled from the garden. All right. Doesn't sound like a friggin' apple tree, does it? It says it looked like the colors of the carob tree, its fruit like very beautiful grape clusters, and the fragrance of this tree travels and reaches afar. And I said, this tree is beautiful, and its appearance is beautiful and pleasant. Then the holy angel Raphael, who was with me, responded to me and said, this very thing is the tree of wisdom from which your old father and aged mother, they who are your precursors, ate and came to know wisdom. And consequently their eyes were open, and they realized that they were naked, and so they were expelled from the garden. And from there I went to the extreme ends of the earth. The ends of the earth. That's an interesting way of saying it, right? And so there are huge beasts, each different from the other, and different birds, also differing from one another in appearance, beauty, and voice. And to the east of the beasts, I saw the ultimate ends of the earth, which rests on the heaven. And the gates of heaven were open, and I saw how stars of heaven come out. And I counted the gates out of which they exit, and wrote down all their exits for each one, according to their numbers, their names, their ranks, their seats, their periods, their months, as Uriel, the holy angel who was with me, showed me. He showed me all things and wrote them down for me. Also, in addition, he wrote down their names, their laws, and their companies. So we know from Revelation that the stars represent the angels. And here again, it's like another confirmation of the different names of these luminous beings. From there I went into the direction of the earth, to the extreme ends of the earth, and there at the extreme end of the whole world I saw a great and glorious seat. There also I saw 3 open gates of heaven. When it blows cold, hail, frost, snow, dew, and rain, through each one of the gates the winds proceed in the northwesterly direction. Through one gate they blow good things, but when they blow with force through the 2 other gates, they blow violence and sorrow upon the earth. And from there I went in the direction of the west to the extreme ends of the earth, and saw there 3 open gates of heaven, just like the one I saw in the east in respect to the number of its exits. And from there I went in the direction of the south to the extreme ends of the earth, and saw there 3 open gates of the heavens, where the south wind, dew, rain, and wind come forth. And from there I went in the direction of the extreme ends of the heaven, and saw there open gates of heaven, with small gates above them. In the direction of the east, through one of these small gates, pass the stars of heaven and travel westward on the path which is shown to them. And when I saw this, I blessed, and I shall always bless the Lord of glory, who performed great and blessed miracles, in order that he may manifest his great deeds to his angels, the winds, and to the people, so that they might praise the effect of all his creation, so that they might see the effect of his power and praise him in respect to the great work of his hands, and bless him forever. So that is the end of that section. And this next part goes into the part where they're getting ready to talk to Noah. So that's a lot. So why was that taken out of the Bible? Was it too much for people to understand? Was it taken out because they didn't want us to know about the fallen angels? They didn't want us to know about the negative energy that was here, how it works, what it does. They don't want us to know that you can hear negative speaking, and it comes into your existence, and it's part of that evil energy from the Watchers. I don't know. I think the next time I start on this discussion, we'll start with this next section, which is book 2, the Book of the Similitudes. So it is very interesting, and it talks about man's judgment. It talks about the flood. It talks about the Garden of Eden and the hopeless end of kings, rulers, and landlords, which would get us to present day type situations. So I had a great time talking to everybody today. I had a really awesome day. I hope everyone has a blessed day and thinks about the destruction and thinks about Enoch and the light and dark of it all. So I'm Danielle. I'm signing off. This is the 144, and I'll see you probably tomorrow. Bye.